I need a ETA.
Why are we talking? Why are you here?
Bobby, no bullshit. Can you get it? Sir, I have a problem. The HV acid is compromised.
Holy shit.
I have to make a decision. You understand that?
Roger that. I'm gonna fight so you make it.
What would you do if the CIA asked you to befriend someone, gain their complete trust, fall in love with them, and then destroy their entire world? That's not a hypothetical. That's the actual job description for the Women of the Lioness program. And trust me, by the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly why this show broke records on Paramount Plus and why Taylor Sheridan might have created his most emotionally devastating series yet. I'm about to take you through the complete story of Special Ops Lioness. Both seasons, every major plot point, every brutal betrayal, and every moment that'll make you question whether some missions are worth the cost. And here's a fun fact before we dive in. This show is actually inspired by a real CIA program. Back in 2003, the US military created Team Lioness in Ramadi, Iraq, where female soldiers became the first American women sent into direct ground combat. The real Lionesses searched over 100 Iraqi women per day at checkpoints and house raids. The TV version takes things to a much darker, more covert place. So let's get into it. Season 1. Season 1 opens in the worst possible way, with a death. We're in Kobani, Syria, inside an ISIS compound. A Lioness operative named Isabel is hiding, desperately calling her handler, CIA Station Chief Joe McNamara, played by Zoe Saldana. Isabel's cover has been blown. Someone spotted a cross tattoo hidden on her ribs. Just like that, everything she worked for is gone. Joe is positioned at a US military base 17 kilometers away with her quick reaction force team. She can see the compound. She can hear Isabel's fear, but she can't reach her in time. The terrorists discover Isabel, and Joe faces an impossible choice. Let her operative be tortured for information that could compromise everything, or call in an airstrike that kills her own agent. Joe calls the airstrike. Isabel dies in the explosion. This moment haunts Joe for the entire season. It's also the reason she becomes obsessed with finding the perfect lioness, someone who won't make the same mistakes. Now we flash back 4 years earlier to Oklahoma, where we meet Cruz Manuelos. Played by Leisla de Oliveira, Cruz is working at a diner, trapped in an abusive relationship with a man named Edgar. After he punches her in the face following an argument, something in Cruz snaps. She fights back, beats him with a frying pan, and runs. Edgar chases her through the streets until she stumbles into a Marine recruiting center. The recruiter protects her, and Cruz makes a decision that will define her entire life. She enlists in the Marines to escape. Cruz doesn't just survive the Marines, she excels. Force recon training, 2 tours in Afghanistan, exceptional combat abilities, and most importantly, for Joe's purposes, no identifying tattoos, no cross hidden on her ribs. Cruz is the perfect candidate. Joe evaluates her at Fort Bragg, makes her strip down to check for any marks that could blow her cover like Isabel's did. And despite Cruz's resistance to Joe's harsh methods, she's selected for the program. Joe briefs Cruz on the mission. Their target is Asmar Ali Amrohi, a billionaire oil magnate who secretly finances terrorism across the Middle East. He's connected to Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and responsible for funding attacks that have killed countless people. But here's the thing. You can't just walk up to someone like Amrohi. So Cruz's mark isn't him. It's his daughter, Aliyah. The plan is simple in concept, devastating in execution. Cruz will befriend Aliyah, earn her trust, and use that relationship to get close enough to Amrohi to eliminate him. In Kuwait City, Cruz approaches Aliyah at a Louis Vuitton store while she's shopping. Despite having zero experience with undercover work, Cruz successfully starts a friendship. Joe watches from afar and makes the call. We're in. Before Cruz can go deeper, Joe needs to know one crucial thing. What's Cruz's breaking point? Cruz is ambushed while jogging, blindfolded, and subjected to brutal SERE training. That stands for survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. It's psychological and physical torture designed to simulate enemy interrogation. Joe reveals she orchestrated the whole thing. She brings up Cruz's past, her dead abusive ex Edgar, her absent father. When the test coordinator tries to call it off because Cruz has reached her limit, Cruz doesn't just stop. She explodes. Cruz violently beats the operatives running the exercise. Multiple men are needed to restrain her as she screams in rage. Now Joe knows. Cruz can take more than anyone expects. But that fury? It's a double-edged sword. Cruz continues building her relationship with Aaliyah. Pool parties at her Chesapeake beach house, shopping trips, late-night conversations. When Aaliyah notices Cruz's body is covered in bruises from the SERE training, Cruz breaks down in tears and claims she has an abusive boyfriend who's now locked up. The lie works perfectly because it's built on truth. But something unexpected starts happening. Cruz isn't just pretending to like Aaliyah. The friendship feels real. Aaliyah confides that she doesn't want to marry her fiancé Ehsan, a Kuwaiti national in an arranged marriage. She feels trapped. Meanwhile, Joe's personal life is falling apart. Her teenage daughter Kate gets into violent fights at school, starts dating boys way too early, and there's constant tension in the McNamara household. Joe's husband Neil, a pediatric oncologist, struggles with the weight of his own work, delivering terminal diagnoses to parents while wondering who his wife really is. At a beach club in the Hamptons, Cruz is drugged. A predator slips GHB into her drink and drags her toward the woods. Joe and the team find her just in time. The attacker had already removed her underwear. Joe beats the man bloody, but the damage to the mission is almost done. That same night, Joe receives devastating news. Kate has been in a serious car accident. Broken leg, spinal fractures, and her body rejected the pregnancy Joe didn't even know about. Kate is only 14. Joe breaks down for the first time. She's overwhelmed by her daughter's accident, by Cruz's near assault, by a colleague named Kyle throwing her under the bus over a separate border mission gone wrong. The White House is furious about CIA operations on American soil. They're threatening to take over the entire Lioness program. Despite everything, the mission continues. The wedding location is revealed. Mallorca, Spain. Aaliyah is ecstatic, jumping around and hugging Cruz. And then she kisses her. After a moment's hesitation, Cruz kisses her back. Hard. It's not a friendly peck. It's real. She pulls away, suddenly realizing the complication she's just created. In New York, preparing for the wedding, things escalate further. Cruz and Aaliyah end up in a private apartment together. They have sex. Afterward, Cruz sneaks to the bathroom crying and texts Joe. She goes to Kyle's room 2 floors down, and Joe arrives by helicopter. Cruz admits the truth. She's falling in love with Aaliyah. She doesn't think she can complete the mission. Joe delivers a brutal reality check. Aaliyah is using Cruz as her last hurrah for becoming a baby maker trapped in a compound in Riyadh. More importantly, Amrohi is financially responsible for every major conflict in the Middle East since 9/11. Killing him is equivalent to destroying the only bank accessible to terrorists. Joe demands 7 more days. Cruz agrees, but she believes Aaliyah's feelings are genuine. The Lioness team flies to Barcelona. Joe orders Cruz to watch 8 straight hours of footage, surveillance, news reports, and satellite imagery of every terrorist attack linked to Amrohi. She needs Cruz to remember why she volunteered for this mission in the first place. Before leaving, Joe tells Kate she may not come back. Kate asks if her mother is going to kill someone. Joe's silence is the answer. Kate makes her promise to try to return. At the Fortaleza estate in Mallorca, security is extreme. Metal detectors, ID checks, everything monitored. Cruz is brought not to Aaliyah, but to Exxon, who is suspicious. He interrogates her about her time with Aaliyah in New York, asks why they were crying together. When Cruz can't give satisfactory answers, he slaps her across the face and warns her. After the wedding, she'll never see Aaliyah again. The night before the wedding, Aaliyah visits Cruz's room in tears. She told Exxon she doesn't want to marry him. He doesn't care. It's transactional. Aaliyah says after tomorrow, all she'll know of love is what I can remember. She asks Cruz to remember her too. Cruz leaves to get water and clear her head. In the kitchen, she encounters Amrohi for the first time. He's a charming older man with gray hair who offers her helado. He doesn't seem like a monster. Meanwhile, Asan runs facial recognition on Cruz. He finds a match, a photo of her in Marine uniform posted online. Asan bursts into the kitchen screaming, "Marine! She is a U.S. Marine!" Cruz doesn't hesitate. She stabs Asan in the neck, killing him instantly. Amrohi tries to stop her, but Cruz stabs him multiple times and slits his throat. She activates her distress beacon. Aaliyah arrives at the kitchen and finds her father and fiancé dead in pools of blood. She screams in horror as guards rush in. Cruz runs. Joe and the QRF team race to shore, providing cover fire as a massive gunfight erupts across the estate. Cruz swims to the extraction yacht while her team kills multiple guards behind her. On the boat, Cruz confirms to CIA supervisor Caitlin Meade, played by Nicole Kidman, he's dead. The moment Cruz boards the yacht, she punches Joe in the face. She's pulled away, but returns later for another fight. Joe subdues her. Cruz screams, "You made me into a monster." Amrohi was just an old man. Aaliyah's future children will hear stories of how their grandfather died and become the next generation of terrorists. Joe responds that Cruz saved countless lives and changed history. Cruz counters with the truth that haunts her. Maybe he was what you said, but she wasn't. Aaliyah sits on the steps in tears as her father and fiancé's bodies lie nearby. Her entire world has been destroyed by someone she loved. Cruz quits. "I'm done with this. I'm done with you." Joe returns home and collapses into Neil's arms, sobbing. This was hard. This was so hard. Okay, that was season 1. And if you're sitting there thinking, how the hell do they continue this story? That's exactly what I thought. Before we dive into season 2, if you're enjoying this breakdown, smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I break down complex shows like this all the time, and trust me, season 2 goes in directions you absolutely won't see coming. We're talking Mexican cartels, Chinese intelligence, human trafficking, and a helicopter crash in Iran. Let's keep going. Season 2. Season 2 opens with masked men attacking the home of Texas Congresswoman Hernandez. They kill her husband and son, then kidnap her. Joe tries to have a normal breakfast with her family, but is immediately pulled back into work. Hernandez has been pushing for legislation allowing U.S. military forces to be deployed on American soil. Someone doesn't want that to happen. Joe meets with Secretary of State Edwin Mullins, played by Morgan Freeman, now a series regular, along with CIA Deputy Director Byron Westfield and Caitlin Meade. They determine this kidnapping is the first domino in a complex political chain that could ultimately lead to China invading Taiwan. Joe assembles an extraction team led by Cody. played by Taylor Sheridan himself in a surprising acting role. They cross into Mexico for an intense rescue mission. The gunfight is brutal. They save Hernandez using her tracker. But a team member named Dean dies during the operation. Joe breaks down emotionally when she has to tell Hernandez that the cartel killed her entire family. Later, she calls her children and can barely hold it together. The toll of this job is crushing her. The mission unfolds. Los Tigres cartel is led by Alvaro Carrillo, whose brother Pablo is a lawyer in the United States. Pablo's daughter, Josefina, nicknamed Josie and played by Genesis Rodriguez, is a helicopter pilot in the U.S. Army stationed in Iraq. The plan? Use Josefina to infiltrate her uncle's criminal network and eventually reach a Chinese agent connected to the Ministry of State Security. Joe travels to Iraq to recruit Josefina. It's not easy. Josefina is reluctant, mentioning she's never heard of anyone actually surviving the Lioness program. But Joe asks her the question that matters. Does she love her country enough to serve it more? Josefina tearfully agrees. And Cruz? She's back. After quitting the program at the end of Season 1, Cruz has been killing pirates on ships in international waters. Joe pulls her back in as a shadow. Someone to watch Josefina and ensure she doesn't betray them. Josefina's training is hostile from both sides. She lies about knowing Spanish. She lies about how close she is to her family. Joe catches every deception. The team bugs the Carrillo mansion in Texas and prepares to make their move. But first, they need intel on a warehouse the cartel is operating just south of the U.S.-Mexico border. Joe suspects a setup, but Caitlin has already approved the mission. The team hits the warehouse expecting drugs. What they find is so much worse. Instead of narcotics, they discover hundreds of women and children being held for human trafficking. The team is forced to leave the children there because rescuing them isn't part of the mission parameters. What the was that? One team member asks as their helicopter takes off. Joe is devastated. She confronts her superiors. Those are children, and in 2 weeks, they're someone's sex toy. But Caitlin and Byron refuse to authorize a rescue. It's not their job. This moment breaks something in Joe, and it pushes Josefina to the edge when she learns this trafficking is connected to her own family. Cruz steps up in Season 2. She counsels Josefina, telling her that anyone who profits from suffering is evil, even her father. We can choose not to fight, but choosing not to fight is how warehouses fill up with children. Cruz drives Josefina to her parents' house for dinner, watching as Pablo Carrillo interrogates his daughter about her military discharge. He goes on rants about the woke military and America's failing empire. The tension is unbearable. Meanwhile, Joe tries to track a trafficked girl using a hidden tracker, hoping to locate the perpetrators. The mission goes catastrophically wrong. A suicide bombing occurs at the border. The little girl and others die in the explosion. Joe is severely injured. She has to be resuscitated during surgery. With Joe in critical condition, Cruz takes charge. She pushes Josefina to confront her father directly. Josefina tells Pablo the CIA knows everything about his activities. His response? He slaps his own daughter. The QRF team moves in. Violence erupts. Pablo's security team is killed. Pablo and Josefina are taken into CIA custody. The CIA offers Pablo a deal. Kill your brother Alvaro, take over the cartel, and work with us. In exchange, protection from prosecution and freedom in the United States. Pablo flies to his brother's compound. In a tense gun standoff with private contractors, Pablo is slipped a weapon. He executes Alvaro with a single bullet to the head, then announces to the remaining cartel members that he's the new boss. The season's climax is Operation Skyhawk. 2 Chinese nuclear scientists are traveling to Iran's Isfahan nuclear base. If they arrive, Iran's nuclear capabilities will be activated. Secretary Mullins has ordered the mission without presidential approval. This is about sending a message. Josefina and Cruz attack the Turkish convoy from a helicopter. They destroy most vehicles, but get hit. The helicopter crashes. Cruz survives relatively unscathed. Josefina breaks her leg. Jo was supposed to stay back, observe, and advise only. If she's captured in Iran, it's catastrophic mission failure. She suits up anyway. I observe and give advice unless one of my assets goes down. A massive firefight ensues. The team is vastly outnumbered. Tucker gets shot in the leg. Bobby is grazed in the face. Tex takes a round in the abdomen. They fall back to the crash site and set up behind boulders. Jo runs out of ammunition. She tells Josefina to keep her pistol, in case they need to prevent capture. Jo closes her eyes and appears to mouth, "I love you" to her family, accepting that this might be the end. At the last possible moment, presidential air support arrives and destroys all enemy units. Everyone survives. Jo returns home. Neil is waiting on the doorstep. "Wasn't sure you were coming home," he says. "I wasn't sure I still had one to come home to," Jo admits. "Jo, you always have one to come home to." They embrace. The family reunites. The mission succeeded. The cartel's Chinese connection is severed, with Pablo now running Los Tigres under CIA supervision. Iran and China got their message. But the emotional cost, that never goes away. Here's what makes Lioness different from most spy thrillers. It's not really about the missions. It's about what happens to the people who complete them. Cruz fell in love with her target and had to destroy her. Now she's falling for Josefina while teaching her to betray her own family. Jo has nearly died multiple times, missed her daughter's childhood, and carries the weight of every operative she's lost. The show asks uncomfortable questions. Is any mission worth becoming a monster? When does protecting your country become destroying yourself? How do you go home to your kids after doing things you can never tell them about? Taylor Sheridan wrote all 16 episodes of the first 2 seasons himself. He directed episodes of Season 2 and even cast himself as Cody, the Delta Force operator who saves the day in the premiere. The man who created Yellowstone built something very different here, a show where the violence has consequences that actually matter. Season 3 has already been confirmed, and after everything Jo, Cruz, and Josefina have been through, I genuinely don't know how much more they can take. If you made it this far, you're a real one. This took forever to research and put together, and I hope it helped you understand why Lioness hits different than most shows in this genre. If you want more content like this, breakdowns of complete series that respect your time and actually explain what's happening, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment letting me know what show you want me to tackle next. I'm out. See you in the next one.